Hi everyone. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. In today's session, we would like to talk about TESOL or teaching English to speakers of other language in Muslim populated country, a class of civilization. So more or less we're going to discuss whether there is a class between the civilizations, between the Western and the Muslim civilizations. So this is me, I'm Rafika Rabafara. So this is presented on 86th Weekly Discussion American Corner, March 26, 2008, University of Muhammadiyah Malang. So the points to cover, the first point is about English and its status. Basically, it's going to discuss about English and Islam. The second is about the portrayal of English among Muslims, Indonesian Muslim perceptions of English. The third is Indonesian context, how actually ELT or English language teaching in Indonesia run. The fourth, language, worldview, and identity. So we will also conclude or summarize these presentations toward the next project. What is the implications? Well, in the very first instance, English and its status. So as everyone know, English is a word language. So it has been taught in educational setting. So it's also a language of the social interactions. And however, English is a carrier of Judeo-Christian value. So English is not merely language, but it brings Western civilizations and also socio-cultural aspects. English and Islam. So there is actually a convention between English and Islam. Do the two items between English and Islam have a contradictions? So after the aftermath of 9/11, so the World Trade tragedy, World Trade Center tragedy in America, so it brings a high tension between Islam actually and Western value. So Islam has been portrayed in a very negative way, so that the Muslims is prejudiced and portrayed negatively in media. So we also would like to discuss about the supposed conflict between English and Islam. Is there any conflict actually? So English is more than just a language. Islam is more than just a religion. So this is the quote from Ashraf 2005. According to Ashraf, English is not merely language, but it brings another aspect of it. So Islam is more than just a religion. So if other religion is the teaching is more to dogma and other things, Islam is more than that. So Islam is not only a religion, but it covers all aspects of human life. So then everything that Muslims do, it must be based on religious value. So the next, this is the portrayal of English among Muslims. Let's see how Muslims in the world and also in Indonesia perceive English. So based on research, according to Washima et al. 1996 and Ashraf 2005, it has been concluded that in Morocco, English is taught solely on the linguistic convention and as an instrumental tool. So in Morocco, the language teaching or English teaching is merely on linguistic convention and as instrumental tool. What about in university in the Arab world? Some teachers want the reductions of period spent on English teaching. It means that some teachers do not really agree about the idea of English teaching in the Arab universities. So in Kuwait, The Kuwait students, they are reluctant to learn English as its values and tradition are contrast to their religions. This is about the Kuwait students. What about the Malay students? So English is linked to secularism. So based on the research, the Malay students perceive that English is linked to secularism, not the hereafter language. So it is the word of the dunya maybe. So they also said that English is here and now. It is not the hereafter language. Okay, so those are the perceptions of Muslim students about English. What about Indonesian Muslims? There are very limited studies studying about Muslim students' perceptions of English in Indonesia, but there are assumptions or there are a phenomenon that some of our students will link English as a bridge of Western culture, and it also linked to Christian value. And some of the students also said that English is the kafir language or the non-Islamic language. We often heard this, but this one is still assumptions because there are limited research about Muslim student perceptions in Indonesia. So this one in Indonesian Muslim perception is still assumptions and some phenomena. Compared to Arabic, not the language of paradise. Compared to Arabic, English is not the language of paradise. So this is the phenomena we have. Next. English in Indonesian context, now and then. So the fact that the first point, Muslim is the largest group in Indonesia. It covers 80 to 90% Muslims, and with this large number, ELT is encouraged. It is taught since early age. So students in the kindergarten or even in playgroup level, they have been stimulated, they have been taught English since the early age. It's also widely used that some songs and some lyrics are taught to the early age students. And English is also language of instructions. We know that some programs are set to some of a program are set to teach English, such as English Day, bilingual program, and also international class. So it was popular in Indonesia that there was RSBI, Rancangan Sekolah Bertaraf International. So the international means that students are able to use English, active or passive. So this kind of the phenomena. So by mastering English, it also has a socio-economic status. The one who are able to speak English is categorized as having more power over peers, or it is perceived that he or she is more educated and she or he has more opportunity to get better job. So this is the English phenomena, English skills, competence in Indonesian context. So here is the thing, the supposed conflict. Some English textbooks. So it has issue with picture. If the textbooks, if you come and see deeper on a textbook, some of the textbook teacher use it as main materials for their English class. If they don't really careful to select the materials, it actually contains a very sensitive issue, just like this picture. For instance, this one, in writing textbook, students are asked to describe the picture to a partner. The question is, have you been to the beach before? Tell your partner what it was like. So basically, if it is in our culture, in Islamic culture, So this picture is very sensitive. We have to censor about the picture. Yeah, this is the first issue. Issues with picture. So the second one, this is another example. For instance, in listening class, we have this picture. Look at the following women. Write a short description of each. So yeah, maybe the portrayal of women in this picture doesn't suit our culture. So then, this is the second issue. Another thing is about Valentine, birthday party, Thanksgiving, which is very culturally based on Western culture. For instance, same holiday, different custom. People in the United States and Japan celebrate Valentine's Day on February the 14th. Well, I think it has the cultural issue toward the Muslim context, because Valentine's Day or even birthday party or Thanksgiving, it doesn't exist in our religion. So it is the supposed conflict. I would say this is the supposed conflict. Okay, so the content, we have the issue about content. And this is the view of Al-Attas about language, worldview, and identity. According to Al-Attas, 1980 and 1995, key concepts such as God, religion, truth, knowledge, education, reality, justice, freedom, and so on are fundamentally different on some points from Western conceptions of them. So it's merely very different. It is very significant that the concept of God, religion, truth of knowledge, education, reality, justice, freedom, we cannot generalize that every religion will have the same perspective on it. So the next is, a person lives within a particular religious or non-religious framework, culture, and civilization. And since language is also the carrier of the worldview of a religion, culture, and civilization, his or her sense of identity is deeply tied to language. So never think that language is merely a language, but it is also the carrier of the worldview of religion, culture, and civilizations. Generally, however, Muslim identity is defined by Islam, which contains within itself principles and institutions stressing permanence, although allowing for necessary change, and which define acceptable code of behavior. Sets limits on what Muslims filter what is considered good, ethical, and so on. So yeah, Muslim perceptions of Muslim identity should be defined by Islam. So to resolve these tensions, Muslim scholars such as Al-Attas and Wandaud have argued that Muslims separate the foreign elements from these concepts and infuse them with Islamic elements. This process, which they have termed the Islamizations of contemporary knowledge, or the viewing of concept from an Islamic perspective, such that fit accordingly into the vision of truth and reality of Islam. Ashraf 2005. Well, basically, these slides discuss about there should be adaptations, there should be innovation, there should be a change in the way English as a language is taught in a school which Muslims are the major students. Because what? Because the Muslim identity should be defined by Islam. So then Al-Attas and Wandaud has the term Islamizations of the contemporary knowledge. So then English as a language is taught as it is as the language. So we try to separate the culture Well, it is very broad when we talk about culture, but the culture which is very sensitive and it contradicts the Islamic value, it should be deleted. It should be separated. If the culture is not dealing with the what is Islamic principle, so it is maybe okay, but teachers need to be selective on culture infused into English language teaching. So this is basically the idea of this slide. I'm not trying to say that English is not important for Muslims or English is not significant for Muslims. No. We are now living in a very modern world. So English is a language that can be beneficial for Muslims. Yeah, this is the fact. Okay, the first point. Why it is valuable to learn English for Muslims? The first reasons, imams who can use English can communicate it with imams from other countries. So it is the fact that there are many imams from Australia or communicated with imam in Saudi Arabia or even in imam in Africa or imam in the United States and so on. And the second, we can learn English but not copy the Western way of life. I think this statement is very strong, that we can learn English but not copy the Western way of life, because again and again language is very a link to culture. So then English teacher need to be selective when their students are when their students are Muslims. They need to be selective, that remember we can learn English but not copy the Western way of life. And the third point is about English should be appropriated for Muslims on purpose. This is very strong. English should be appropriated for Muslims on purposes. Then teacher should design activity that is used, for instance, use the language, use English, which is not contradictory to the values of Islam. Okay. So what are the implications for EFL practitioners? The first one, raising awareness, both teachers and students, of the potential conflicts, discussion, reflections, and ways to respond. There are supposed conflicts between Islam and English. So the second is localizing English on one hand and internationalizing it one to the others. The third one, developing ELT sources based on national and school needs, referring to school-based curriculum or KTSP. So then actually the way of infusing English to the local needs. For instance, there are some Islamic schools. If the Islamic school have certain curriculum, for instance, public speaking and stuff, they can't infuse the Islamic knowledge into English. So the students can deliver the da'wah or Islamic studies. They can preach Islam in English. So I think this is a very good method to develop ELT source based on national and school needs. So step 4, there are some other implication. If you can add some more implication, you can add to step 4. Okay. So this is a future project, Islamization of English through textbook. So the context we can have is the program is projected for madrasah or Islamic boarding school setting. So the target is school teachers, and then the training. Teachers are given training workshop on how to develop textbook. What about the objective? The objective is learning English for Muslims on purpose. So yeah, the issue that we have already discussed previously will be projected into this program. So I think this is a good thing. So this one is the bibliography. You can take a look more on this references you can easily find in Google Scholar if you want to find out one. So I think, yeah, that's all. If you have any comments, please write down in the comment sections. It can be very debatable, but the things that I want to raise here in these presentations, there is a supposed conflict between English, which is associated to Western culture, and Islam. So then teachers need to be very selective on selecting materials for their students, which their students are mostly Muslims. So that's all for today. See you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.